Hi, I'm Jane Wells. Welcome to Senior Savvy. Senior Savvy is brought to you by the Oshkosh Senior Center, where it's our mission to enrich the quality of life for adults ages 50 and older. And again, we have some exciting things happening at the Oshkosh Senior Center. For example, we have Silver Sneakers as a part of the Senior Center, and in the past it's always been just for the Fox Fitness Center. Well, the great news is Silver Sneakers is now applicable to our early morning exercise class. So you can come on in and have Silver Sneakers for your exercise class, or you can have it for Fox Fitness Center, either one. But that's a great change for us, and we are excited about that coming through. And Network Health is now also Silver Sneakers. So in the past, if your classes were covered and you got reimbursed by Network Health, now all you have to do is come in and let us know that you're Silver Sneakers. We'll look up your number and get you all set up in our system. So that's fantastic. We've been working hard to get Silver Sneakers into our facility, and we're very excited that it is expanding to our exercise classes as well. So that's not the only thing happening around the Senior Center, and this time of year we always think about giving and helping each other out. Well, of course, the Friends of the Oshkosh Senior Center help us out at the Senior Center every day. Without their financial support, the Senior Center could not exist as it does. So we are very thankful to the Friends of the Oshkosh Senior Center, and they're also doing their annual appeal right now. So if you are interested in supporting and becoming a supporter of the Oshkosh Senior Center, please consider becoming a friend of the Oshkosh Senior Center. And if you have questions on that, feel free to call the center and we'll put you in touch with the Friends of the Oshkosh Senior Center. So today's topic is something that sometimes it's hard to talk about. We're going to talk about mental health. And sometimes there's some stigma associated to that. And so I'm very excited to introduce my guest, who is a counselor with Lutheran Social Services. And so I would like to welcome to the show Becky Parman-Canole. Hi, Becky.
Hi, how are you?
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, what it is, what it isn't, and some of the help that Lutheran Social Services can provide. And Lutheran Social Services is kind of a partner with the Oshkosh Senior Center in that there's office hours at the Senior Center. Mm-hmm. And you are new in your role at the Senior Center, so welcome.
I am, thank you.
So before we start, though, I always ask my guests, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself so people can kind of get to know you?
Sure. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been working with Lutheran Social Services for a little over a year now, and transitioning to my new role as the older adult counselor that's going to be working at the Oshkosh Senior Center as well as in the Appleton Clinic. So doing outpatient mental health therapy and families, groups, things like that. So,
how did you get interested in older adults?
That's a great question. I've actually had a lot of exposure to the older adult population. Growing up, my mom was a nurse for the geriatric population, so she's been doing that her whole life, working with that population, and I just had a ton of exposure with that. And knowing, going into my career, what are some populations that need to be served, and we always think that teens and children get a lot of the exposure for mental health, and the older adults definitely, I feel, fall through the cracks at some point.
Sure.
So it's really important, and that's why I felt there's a big need to work with the older adults.
Definitely, there definitely is, and we see it all the time. And I'm sure that as time goes on, you're going to have more and more experiences and scenarios and different things to relate to, and to share them with other seniors that you are not the only one.
Absolutely, yeah. There's that feeling out there that could be the only one.
Right. So mental health. There are many thoughts about that, or people, we don't talk about it. No, we don't share that kind of stuff. Oh, well, so let's talk about what is mental health.
Sure. And I think, the easiest way to think about mental health is to put it in terms of three things that make it up. So it's our emotional, our psychological, and our social well-being. And all those things make up how we live our daily life. So how we think about things, how we act with other people, how we behave, and how we feel. And definitely our mental health sort of influences or helps us figure out how we navigate through our life and how we relate to others and how we make our choices.
Sure.
So mental health is super important.
Right. So at the Senior Center, we kind of have the philosophy of the 7 dimensions of wellness, which of course incorporate many of those different things that you talked about. But what we're trying to do is help people to see the whole picture. And mental health is an aspect of it, but like you said, there's many different components to it. So how does a person know when they're mentally healthy, or maybe when they might need to reach out for some help?
It's definitely in how we live our life and how do we manage our stressors. So if it's something that's healthy, we feel pretty positive and focus on how we're making our choices. But when things start to struggle or when we're experiencing certain symptoms like loneliness or depression, those are times when we may need to reach out to somebody for extra help.
Sure. Sometimes irritability too surfaces and you just feel like you're crabby with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe there's something underneath there that needs to be explored a little bit. So, definitely as we age, there are a lot of things that happen in our lives. So there are things that I would say are triggers for times where somebody might need to reach out. Can you share from your experience like what some of those triggers might be?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones as we get older is the loss of independence or feeling like we can no longer live on our own. So whether that's due to physical health, frailty, chronic pain, where we need to move into maybe a residential area.
Sure.
We're losing that sense of home and our sense of self. That's a big change. Other people more likely to experience bereavement, so grief and loss. So whether it's family, friends, other significant others, people that are important to us.
Right, and that is so hard. I mean, so many times it just brings on such a major shift in many different areas, and so dealing with that loss. But I do kind of want to go back to, surprisingly, I think retirement. While we all look forward to that day, sometimes when that day actually arrives, so much of what we see ourselves as is what we do.
Absolutely.
And so when you no longer do that, where does your value, and so sometimes there is help needed to navigate some of that. There really are stages of retirement, and they kind of follow grief a lot.
Absolutely, definitely.
And it is to push through that. So sometimes even just a person who is retiring might want to reach out and get some help and know that is 100% normal and typical to experience a sense of loss.
Yes, it's sort of that loss of one identity and then figuring out who you want to be in this new journey in life.
Right, exactly. So, we talked about major ones, like, a spouse passing away, having to move out of your home. But I do think that there are smaller triggers too. Becoming a caretaker for a spouse definitely puts a lot of stress, and we need to recognize the needs of the caregiver and not just the person who's getting the care, because oftentimes we do see the health of the caregiver decline because they stop taking care of themselves, and they really do need that support system, and they need to be able to talk to somebody about all the changes that are happening in their life because of something totally out of their control.
And it's very easy as a caregiver to forget about ourselves and our own self-care because we're so focused on taking care of our loved ones.
Right. And I also, along that same lines, I think when our own health starts to deteriorate and we aren't as, like you said, the loss of independence, but even before all of that, just slight things here and slight things there. And then I do think that sometimes depression sets in. That's like a creepy, it's like creeps in through the back door, because all of a sudden you're just not feeling right, or you have chronic issues that aren't going away. So some of those, the big triggers are, easy to spot, but sometimes there's those smaller things that are happening, and you just feel out of sorts and you can't quite figure out why.
Yeah, definitely.
So are the mental health and physical health related? Have you seen that?
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. Physical health definitely impacts the mental health, and mental health also impacts physical health, for sure.
Right. So how you process something that is happening or how you're thinking about it in your mind really can have an effect in many areas of your life.
Absolutely.
You think about somebody who's depressed, they tend to be more shelled in and less oxygen and all of that type of stuff. So tell us what you would recommend for somebody who might be feeling a little low or just even, what would they do for their physical health to help their mental health?
Well, one thing is, just making sure that we're keeping in touch with how we're feeling, how we're acting with others, checking in with ourselves and with others who know us the best to see if they've noticed any changes. A big thing is to also check in with those that you trust. So whether it's healthcare providers, your doctor, any of the people that are involved with you and know you,
Sure.
check in to see, is this normal? Is this something that needs to be treated? Whether it's medication, through therapy, anything like that, exploring all of those possibilities.
So do you recommend people writing stuff down? Because I know, different times you go and the doctor says, well, when did this start? That's a really good question.
Right.
Was it yesterday or a month ago? I'm not sure, at least, with me. So, so maybe starting to do like a log or some type of journaling or documenting, when you're feeling different things, or if you feel like you're really low on a specific day. Because then, too, I think you maybe can help to see if there's a pattern to something.
Absolutely. Finding out if there's any specific triggers or different days or times that are specifically happening with these symptoms.
Right.
Absolutely.
Even time of year sometimes can be a trigger. The holidays can be a trigger, especially if you've lost someone or, kids are all moved away or whatever the circumstances are. So again, physical health is really important, and that's another reason to come and work out at the Oshkosh Senior Center, because when you get moving, not only are you're moving, you're getting oxygen, the blood's pumping, you're talking to the person next to you.
Yes.
It's not just about the physical exercise, it's about the connectivity with other people.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, so, and that is really important. And sometimes just being out in nature, you go for a walk outside and it just helps to reground.
The change of scenery is always good too, especially if you're feeling isolated or feeling lonely. Just getting out of the house, taking a walk, going to the senior center to exercise or hang out with people.
Come and
very
play
beneficial.
Right, exactly. So forgetfulness and memory loss, we hear an awful lot about dementia and Alzheimer's. Is that a mental illness, or where does that fall into this realm?
Sure. Dementia is technically not a mental illness, but it does affect the mental health. So they both have their own separate symptoms and separate causes, and they also have separate treatments.
Okay.
So
can you tell us a little bit like how they differ? So a person who is feeling low or depressed, how might they be treated versus because depression can actually cause some memory loss, can't it? Because you're not sleeping as well, and the lack of sleep.
Impaired
it's like a roller coaster.
Yes. Dementia is more of a syndrome where you have the deterioration in memory, thinking, communication, and just interacting with daily life, mainly affecting older people, but it's not a normal part of aging.
Right, and I think that's really important. Dementia is not a normal part of aging.
And in the same regards, having depression is not a normal part of aging as well.
Right.
That's something to keep in mind. I think sometimes we get in the habit of thinking, I'm going to experience depression when I get older, and that's just not the case.
Correct. And there are many factors that go into it. One is the exercise, one is the socialization, but diet too.
Absolutely.
It is hard to get motivated, I think, at times to cook a meal for yourself, to sit down and eat, or even for two of you, sometimes I think it's difficult. So I think it's important to look at many areas of life and see what might be contributing to it.
Right.
And it's nobody's fault. I think that's important to say.
Yes.
I mean, you don't choose it. What does make you a strong person is realizing something's not right and then going to get help.
Yes, absolutely.
So if somebody, let's just have your contact information kind of show, and if you can just share your phone number. So if they wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So they can call me directly at my Appleton office, and that number is listed on your screen. It's 920-225-1737.
Sure.
Or they can call our Appleton main clinic, and that number is 920-730-1321. And that would hook them up with our support staff and get them set up.
I'm going to ask you just to do those numbers again, because we might have somebody listening on the radio.
Sure.
And so that might just help them a little bit. So to get in touch with you.
So me personally, my direct number is 920-225-1737. Otherwise, our Appleton main clinic number is 920-730-1321. And that will contact you directly with our support staff.
Okay, so if I call and I get the support staff, what do they say? Or how do I know what to say?
Yep, they will do a basic phone intake with you. Find out just some information, demographic information, name, birth date, phone number, contact information, and basically what you are looking to seek help for.
So what if I don't exactly know? I mean, is it okay to say I'm just not feeling like myself.
Absolutely.
I don't know what to call it, or,
Right. And sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on, and that's why we're seeking help. So that's why they just get you set up with an appointment to see me, and then we work through it together.
Okay. So very non-threatening. They aren't going to sit and grill me 100 things and
Nope.
and make me identify all this stuff or tell you all the things I'm thinking about.
No,
it's mostly just the initial contact of, okay, yep, and we have somebody who can help you talk through these things.
Very brief. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay, so I get a hold of you, and then what happens?
So you get a hold of me, and then we set up an appointment time to come in and do an intake. So it's basically a get-to-know-you session.
Okay.
So again, very non-threatening, just finding out what is your story, what is bringing you
Right.
into counseling, filling out paperwork, sort of
Right.
the mundane pieces of counseling
Sure.
that have to get done, and then,
Sure.
figuring out where you want to go to from here.
Okay, so that session that you're talking about, even though they have to call up in Appleton, actually takes place at the Oshkosh Senior Center.
Absolutely.
Right. So you come into the Senior Center at least one time per week,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
hold counseling sessions, which is wonderful. Very user-friendly
Yes.
for our seniors and stuff.
Yes.
And that way they're still in a familiar environment and things like that. So how much information do I need to bring with me to those counseling sessions?
There's really not a lot that you have to bring with you. It's basic, just demographic information that you would fill out, and a big thing is just filling out sort of a scale, a rating scale of how you've been feeling the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it's just bringing your knowledge about yourself.
Right.
That's all we really focus on in the first session.
And what if I feel I'm really extreme and you've never seen anything like me before?
Yeah, rest assured, it's a very non-threatening, non-judgmental environment. You are who you are, and that's
Right.
what makes you unique, and that's
Right.
what we celebrate. And if things are troubling you, that's what we're working for to, set some goals for you.
Right. And can other people hear what we're talking about, or is this private?
It's very private,
Okay.
very confidential, so nobody can hear what we're talking about. I don't share with anybody, and
Right.
it's up to you and what you want to share.
Right. And even as staff at the Senior Center, we have no idea who's, what's going on or who's coming to see you. That's all just private business, and we're just glad that we are able to have Lutheran Social Services come on site and offer that service.
Yeah.
So also, okay, so what if the one-on-one just feels too intimidating? I know I might need help, but I really don't want to go see the counselor yet.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you have there that you offer that could maybe help me kind of ease into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting in 2017, I will be hosting some discussion groups at the Oshkosh Senior Center twice a month. And those, we have two different groups. We have an open discussion where we just talk about whatever.
Right, so
So-
I can come in with anything that happens to be on my mind and kind of say it out either in front of the group, or I can also listen to what my peers are struggling with too, and maybe I
Absolutely.
have some advice for them because I've been through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the open discussion group, and then what's the other topic?
Then we have another group discussion that will typically have a topic every month. So a predetermined topic, whether it's anxiety, depression, retirement, anything, that we really just bring together with some more focused ideas
Sure.
and ways to help with that.
And I can either come and participate a lot or just come and listen, right?
Yeah, it's walk in. You don't
Okay.
need to pre-register. You can just
Right.
come in and hang out with us for an hour.
Great, and that is a great way to get to meet you too, in a in a setting that is just open and people can. Okay, now I know you. Now I can call you and say, "Hey, I'm ready for that one-on-one."
Yes.
Right?
A good way to test the waters. right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I do think that having that group really does help to help a person to realize you're not in this alone. There are other people dealing with the exact same thing that you're trying to deal with, or are trying to figure their way through this. And maybe you guys can all help each other with your guidance and your facilitation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Power of the group. Yeah.
Yeah. So fee-wise, how does that work? How do I pay for a counseling session, or?
So the counseling sessions, we do accept some insurances, so that's when we would refer you to our support staff in
Okay.
the Appleton Clinic, and they can check on insurance coverage for you. Otherwise, we do accept a sliding fee scale.
So when I make that initial call, is it helpful to have my insurance information out and ready in case
Absolutely.
they ask for it and things
Yes.
like that? Okay. And then otherwise, you said there's a sliding fee fee scale.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes,
a fee.
depending on your income,
Okay.
we are able to work with the cost of the sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's helpful as well for older adults.
Sure, definitely. How long does a session usually last? A one-on-one counseling session?
Typically 45 to 50 minutes
Okay.
is our session time.
And now, when you say, so I come in and I share what I'm what I'm having trouble with, and you say we set up goals. Can you give me an example of what some of those goals might be, just so people have an understanding of, it's not that you're going to exercise, 10 times a week and, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
How do you come about at the goals?
So the goals are all client driven. So it's nothing that I'm setting up for them. Like you said, exercising 10 times a week. They're all based on what you want to do and how you want to improve your lifestyle. So it's something that we work in tandem together to figure out how we're going to change it.
I was going to say, because what if I don't even have a clue how I'm going to get out of where I'm at?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you help coach through.
Yes.
and help people process so that they can begin to see their own way out.
And one of the big things we talk about when we develop our treatment plan is what is going to be different? How are you going to notice when things are changing for the better?
Well, I think it goes back to that writing that stuff down, because then there might be a time where suddenly, you know what? I felt good for 3 hours today. I didn't feel that low or whatever it is. And you can write that down, because that, you write down all of it,
Yes.
chart it all so that you can see the progress and the growth. Okay, so sometimes people kind of get into depression this time of year specifically, when the sun is not out nearly as much as it is in the summer.
Yes.
So can you tell us what that is? Because there is actually a name for it, and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So this time of year is a big time for seasonal affective disorder, and its acronym is SAD. So a little bit appropriate there, and that's because due to the shorter days, we have less sunlight. Typically, the weather's gloomier, and it typically is longer for us up here, further away from the equator, because we do have such long winter months.
Right.
So usually between like October and March, for us here in Wisconsin, is when it's more prevalent up here as well.
And it's not something a person can control.
No.
And it's not just because you didn't have it at 35 doesn't mean that you won't be affected by it later in life. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And yet there are young people who are affected by it as well. And so how might a person start to realize that maybe they are being affected by that?
And some of the symptoms for the seasonal affective disorder typically mirror the depression symptoms. So it's because we're staying inside, we're feeling isolated, we don't get as much sunlight, we're feeling maybe lethargic, more tired, we're having difficulty sleeping, we're feeling maybe more sad, more tearful, things of that nature.
Melancholy and
not really finding joy in a lot of things, especially things that we're used to finding joy in,
Okay.
like hobbies or areas of interest.
Right. So, I've heard of the happy lights and things like that.
Yes.
So is that, tell me what that is, and is that valid or?
Yes, it is. Actually, I was doing a discussion group with some seniors not too long ago, and we've actually found that they are so very helpful to them because they've had experience with them. And it's actually sometimes covered by insurance.
Oh, so tell us what it is. What is?
Yeah, it's basically a light that you can set up within your home that gives off the rays like the sun would, and you can sit in front of it for an amount of time to help get some of that the sunlight back into your body and help you feel a little bit less depressed.
So that's fairly easy. You flip a switch, you turn it on. I've seen some of them that look like those mirrors, three-sided mirrors, or just even a light next to on the end stand next to you, correct? That's
turning on more lights,
enough?
or even sitting in front of your window when it's a nice sunny day like it might be.
Right, right. All right, so we've talked about the counseling services that are available, the two different discussion groups, both the open discussion group and then the topic discussion group. And if somebody was interested in that, they could certainly pick up a copy of our newsletter, because we print the topics and the times and all of that other stuff, or just call the Senior Center, 232-5300, for that information. I guess just to kind of wrap up, would you just give your contact information one more time, please? What number to call if you think that you might need some help?
Sure. So my direct office number is 888-225-1737. And you can also call our Appleton Clinic at 920-730-1321.
And so do they say, I heard this lady on Senior Savvy. Why don't you say your name?
You could, yes. Yes, you can ask for Becky. I'm the only Becky at Lutheran Social Services, so they will know who to connect you with. My last name, though, is Becky Parman-Canole, so.
Great. Yep, and even if they don't remember that part, as long as they remember the Becky part, we're
Yep.
probably good to go. Oh, wonderful. Well, Becky, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this topic, because a lot of people do deal with it, and sometimes you can figure it out on your own, and sometimes you need a little bit of help. So again, I would encourage the discussion groups. If you want to just check out Becky without actually doing the one-on-one, you can do that.
Yeah.
Or call and get the help and get it all in the process and get it rolling so that it can happen. So you are down at the Senior Center a couple of times a week, aren't you? Between the discussion groups sometimes and the counseling and things like that.
Hopefully start to see a familiar face down
That's
there
right,
from now
yes.
on.
And
So
don't hesitate to go up and introduce yourself to Becky if you see her in the hallway or just kind of walking around. And that doesn't mean you have a problem, or just be nice and say hi, right?
I appreciate the friendly faces.
Yes, exactly. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you to Lutheran Social Services for helping be a partner and serve the seniors of Oshkosh, because this is really, really important.
Absolutely.
It is.
Thank
Good.
you.
All right. Well, thank you, Becky. All right. So come on down and check out the group discussions, or check out Becky by giving her a phone call at the number that she gave. Or, we have so many other programs and areas which will help to get you out of the house, connect you with other people, and we don't want you sitting home alone and without any contact with anybody. So call us, okay? Come on down. Thank you for watching Senior Savvy. We'll see you again soon.